The attacks in Peshawar and Sydney underscore that threats locally are also threats globally. In today's world, next door is everywhere.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's absolutely true, and next door is everywhere here in this country, too. Time now for the Malzberg panel. Founder of lessgovernment.org, Seton Motley, and co-founder and executive editor of the wisdomdaily.com, and he's been here many times before, as has Seton. Bradley Hirschfield. Rabbi, welcome. All right, let's talk, Seton. Let me start with you. You know, this is so frightening what happened today in Pakistan. Anytime you see these children killed, like in Beslan 10 years ago, beheadings, it's just a horrific scene. But our president couldn't bring himself in the statement that was written and issued to even mention the group that did it, which is the Taliban.
We're going to have Candy Crowley save him in the next press conference for not whether or not he referenced the correct group. This is who we have. I mean, a lot of us were saying this was who we had prior to 2008. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm not patting anybody else on the back. This is who we have. He wrote in his second autobiography that if the political winds shift, he's going to stand with the Muslims, and this is what's happening. I love the fact that every time something like this happens in Pakistan or Australia, as we saw earlier this week, over the weekend, it's an isolated incident. It's an isolated incident. We won't identify who it is or what their affiliations are or what they're thinking. But if one person shoots one person with a gun, we need to go after every gun owner in the United States of America.
Yeah, that is a little inconsistent and hypocritical, I would say, Rabbi.
Look, I agree actually with much of what Seton said. You said something interesting, Seton, about the idea that the president will stand with the Muslims. Let's be very clear. Forget the number of Jews and Christians that are murdered in the name of Islam every year. Relative to the number of Muslims murdered by Muslims, it's small. I think the real issue is if you want to claim to stand with the Muslims, that's great. But as far as we know, every single person butchered today in Peshawar was a Muslim, killed for being the, quote, wrong kind of Muslim according to others. So this is not even about defending Islam. This is about the willingness to go at this issue and not be surprised. The amazing thing to me is this is simultaneously utterly horrifying and not at all surprising. And while it would have been useful to identify the Taliban, the thing that most disturbs me in all this is where is the outrage? Where is the heartbreak? More than 100 children were butchered. Many of them watched as their teachers were butchered, in some cases burned. The words we can debate, but where is that sense of outrage about what the one thing that Kerry said was true? An attack anywhere is an attack right here. And if we really feel that attack was right here, then I want a different sentiment expressed when our leadership stands up to address it.
But Seton, first of all, you know, there was no outrage, no emotion, no nothing from President Obama when 3 American rabbis, or was it 4 American? I know it was 5 rabbis total, 3 American citizens, rabbis in Israel, were butchered to death with a hatchet in the synagogue. He barely was able to say anything about that. So this doesn't shock me.
No, he only gets riled up if he's talking about Republicans. That's when he gets really passionate. Remember he said on Mexican television that remember who our enemies are, and he was referring to Republicans, not the Taliban, right, not ISIS, not any terrorist group. He doesn't. Look, this is a guy who went to college and studied at the knee of Edward Said. This is a guy who hung out with Rashid Khalidi in Chicago, the former Hamas spokesman. He attended an event, remember, that the LA Times had the video of. This is prior to his first election, and they wouldn't release it because it was a Palestinian celebration. Rashid Khalidi was there, others were there. It was in Chicago. And there were probably so many embarrassing things going on there vis-a-vis Islam versus Israel and Islam in general, the LA
Right.
Times wouldn't release the videotape. This is who he is.
It probably made him look bad. Final word on this issue, Rabbi.
Yeah, we can debate the past. The real question is now what's going on in the world today and how are we going to make it better? That requires not just getting riled up, but actually addressing a real challenge that we have to address now.
All right, and this president hasn't been able to do that so far. When we come back, who might be the next president? Don't go away. The panel continues. All right, folks, part two of the Malzberg panel as we welcome back Seton Motley and Bradley Hirschfield as well. All right, first of all, Jeb Bush. I mean, I don't know, it was a tweet or a Facebook, and he's putting together this, that, and now everybody's excited. Oh, he's running, he's running, he's running. I got to tell you, it doesn't excite me. I don't really care, and there's no way he's getting the nomination, Rabbi. What do you think?
Well, it does kind of excite me, and I'll tell you why, especially as Elizabeth Warren seems to be getting into this race. Because we might be witnessing a return to things we haven't seen since 1980, 1984 when Ronald Reagan ran. We may actually be seeing a gratitude-based, positive and proud of America orientation, largely not ideological, but pragmatic and principled, against an increasingly radicalized, pugnacious Democrat. That's a recipe for victory. So I get it. Some people may think Jeb is too soft or too this or too that, but if this lines up that way, we could actually be returning to some very interesting results. And now it's going to be up to us to see which way it goes.
With all due respect to Brad Seton, I kind of resent the analogy of Ronald Reagan and Jeb Bush. I don't think Ronald Reagan would have talked about, we shouldn't punish the illegals because they did it for their family, not to mention core curriculum and a million other things as well.
Yeah, this is the third coming of McCain and Romney if Jeb Bush gets the nomination. And if Elizabeth Warren is the Democrat nominee, their base will be enthusiastic. Ours, and Jeb Bush is ours won't be. So that will almost ensure an Elizabeth Warren presidency if that happens to be the 2016 matchup.
Yeah, right. I mean, Brad, you get, McCain and Romney, the base stayed home. That's the only reason Barack Obama won.
Part of the reason the base stayed home is because Barack Obama did something, by the way, brilliantly. I don't have to agree with it, but he made a case for the center coming from the far left. Elizabeth Warren can't do that, either because she doesn't want to and she's more pugnacious, or because she's not skillful enough to do it. The real question now is, once again, can people in the Republican Party choose victory over puritanical dogma? There's no question that where this country has been traditionally, which is a slightly right-of-center nation, that while some people might not like Jeb Bush, and I get it, we can debate, Steve, some of those issues about core curriculum and illegal aliens, and I get it, there's room for that debate. And again, it depends what the matchup is. But more than anything else, what I loved about the announcement, in a world of really angry politicians, he came out proud of his family, proud of his country, and looking to do something positive. It was about what he wants to run for, not run against.
What Republicans are angry? What Republicans are not proud of their family? It's absurd.
I think they're all no. See, it's not a question about which Republicans are. There's plenty of anger on both sides. The culture of the country is one of political anger, and the idea that someone from either side, frankly, though I think Jeb Bush clearly is the one that people are talking about. There are other Republicans who could do it too. He's not the only one. I think the real gift here would be to actually get someone from the Republican side to lift out of the anger, call the Democrats on it, and run from that position.
Seton, I think you got to feed into the anger, just as they did in the midterm elections here. They won in a landslide because Americans were angry and fed up. That's what you got to feed on. You got to look at everything Barack Obama is and has done and say, this stinks, and I will not do that.
No one in Washington seems to remember a month ago when we had an election and the results indicated what they indicated. They did not indicate we want to work together. They did not indicate kumbaya. They did not indicate let's just be diet Democrats. They indicated they don't like what Obama's doing. And you can argue, and I would say it's fallacious, that Obama ran to the center in 2008 when he was the most liberal senator voting record in the country going in. He certainly couldn't do that in 2012, and the base stayed home again for the Republicans because they nominated another Diet Democrat. I don't understand how we keep
Well, but
doing the same thing.
that's
We had the
really a
same
shame,
conversations
because then
every
what you're
4 years, and the establishment Republicans who argue for McCain or Romney or Jeb Bush say, "Gosh, I just wish the base would wake up." Whether you, as condescending as you want to be to the base, acknowledge the fact that they're not going to vote for this person. You can either acknowledge that.
All right, guys,
or throw
this
another
is where we're going to have to
and
end it,
lose the
gentlemen.
case.
We just disagree, but that's okay.
Seton and Brad, thank you both. We'll speak to you very soon. And Give Me Five is next. Don't go away.